Something huge is brewing as new reports have come out labeling the Dallas Cowboys as the top landing spot for this 6'7", 264-pound tight end. We tell you who this is and give you all the latest Cowboys trade updates right here on Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Jace Andrews. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join it here with us. If you're new, make sure you hit that subscribe button. It's 100% free, and we're covering the Dallas Cowboys every single day of the year. So if you want your latest news, information, and updates on the Cowboys all in one place, we have got you covered. Now, today's video kind of comes from this article. The Cowboys are predicted to trade for a blocking tight end that is, quote, built like a tank. Now, while the top of this article is very key, I think the more important part is the text below it, saying, with Brian Schottenheimer desiring a more physical offense, the Dallas Cowboys could look to add a massive blocking tight end. And why that is so important is because, well, the Dallas Cowboys were coached by Mike McCarthy last year, and quite frankly, Coach Schottenheimer has a very different mindset when it comes to how he wants this offense to run, and that is a physical mindset, because if you look at the tight end room as it stands right now, I think it's actually very good. Jake Ferguson obviously had an unexpected breakout, Luke Shoemaker is a second-round pick, and I still believe has a lot left in the tank, and then Brevin Spanford was a surprising guy last year that, quite frankly, is somebody who I could see as a blocking tight end. However, he just doesn't fit the mold. He's not the 6'7", 300-pound guy. That's not what he is. Whereas the guy that we're talking about today, perfect fit. Now, we do have to go into some backstory about this and kind of show you why this is a thing. Randy Gerzai of Dallas Cowboys SI says this, quote, Coach Schotty has made it clear that he wants to build a more physical team that can win on the ground. And they took a step in that direction when they used the 12th overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft on Alabama guard Tyler Booker. We all know the way that Coach Schotty coaches this team, especially coming from an offensive line background, is very different from the way Mike McCarthy coached this team. Now, what does that mean for the year coming forward? Because, well, they have a very good receiving team. They can air the ball out. I'm not saying they're just going to stop airing the ball out. But when you get close to the red zone, I think it's going to be a lot more of ground and pound. I think it's going to be a lot more of finding a Luke Shoemaker, finding a Jake Ferguson, using those blocking tight ends. And that's exactly why this trade target would be a perfect situation. And the bigger reason probably behind it is because where this guy is right now with the Pittsburg Steelers, he has no reason to be there anymore with their trade for Jonnu Smith. He's now the third string tight end and a guy who the Cowboys, again, looked to draft at one point in their draft processes a couple years back. That's exactly where we move on in the story as we go here with Randy Gerzai of Dallas Cowboys SI saying, quote, they could take things a step further by adding a massive run-blocking tight end to open up more space for their backs. That's what Cody Williams of Fansided predicts will happen as he named Dallas a landing spot for Pittsburgh Steelers tight end Darnell Washington via trade, end quote. Now, this is a guy we've talked about on this channel before. In fact, when the trade was made between the the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Miami Dolphins, with Jonnu Smith heading to the Steelers, obviously you have Minkah Fitzpatrick heading there as well, or heading back to the Dolphins. Jonnu is a tight end who now, with Pat Freiermuth, creates a dynamic duo of tight ends in Pittsburgh, and Darnell Washington, who I believe was a second, third-round pick, he is now just not needed in Pittsburgh. So his situation is bad. The Dallas Cowboys could easily pounce on them and say, hey guys, you are not going to use him. How about like a quick 6th-round pick or something like that to get him off your hands here? I mean, he's got like 2 years left on his rookie contract, so maybe it would take a little bit more. They could probably get a better offer somewhere else, but why not throw a floater out there? Because, quite frankly, he is not in a good position whatsoever. Now, this article is one where basically, Fansided had 6 NFL trade candidates that will be moved before the 2025 season, and also predicting where they will land. Darnell Washington was number 2 on this list because, quite frankly, like I said, he just doesn't have a spot on the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore. And where would be a better place for him to go? Maybe the Dallas Cowboys. That's where we go and kind of base off his report here. He says, quote, how could potential trade suitors not be enticed by the potential of the 6'7", 264-pound tight end as a blocker and a potential red zone or short yardage threat in the passing game? There's simply no room left for him on the Steelers, and trading him to recoup draft assets would make more sense, end quote. Now, the question is this. Are the Dallas Cowboys willing to give up draft assets for a tight end when their draft, or rather tight end room, is already pretty set? That's where I have the question and why I want to know more. And here's what Cody Williams says on why exactly the Cowboys might do this. He says this, quote, "Both Jake Ferguson and Luke Shoemaker have been fine in the Dallas Cowboys receiving game, but they've left a ton to be desired as a blocker," end quote. Now, personally, that's exactly where I look at Brevin Spann-Ford on this depth chart to say, he may not present as a blocking tight end, but he has the height for a blocking tight end, and he has done a fantastic job when called upon. So, again, is this really worth it to give up draft assets for a guy who, quite frankly, yes, is an upgrade to Brevin Spann-Ford, but I still see him as a third-string tight end here. So that's where the question comes of why exactly is he being predicted to go to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Cody Williams gives one final reasoning, and I'm willing to hear him out. He says this, quote, "With a young offensive line in Brian Schottenheimer's offense, taking a flyer with a team that Dallas has already traded with this offseason on Washington to come in and help add extra protection on the edge would make a great deal of sense, especially if the aim is also to improve the ground game," end quote. And so that's the part where I could kind of see it. Why would a trade be made? Because Brian Schottenheimer wants this offense to be physical. He knows that based on this running back room, it is going to be a running back by committee. And for that, you need to have great blocking from top to bottom. That means your tight ends have to be fantastic blockers, especially in short yardage situations. So that's where I could see this trade actually working out if it's such an important job for the Cowboys to have that blocking level tight end. And again, I think him in short yardage situations / red zone threat would be very good to have a 6'7" type guy, especially for a Dak Prescott, who can just kind of, if he has no one else open, you can just kind of toss it up and give him a 50-50 ball, because odds are he's going to come down with it, or no one's going to come down with it if he's 6'7". Like, it's just not going to be an interception. At least it won't be most of the times. Now, he does not have the greatest stats. He has played combined in 34 games and only has 26 receptions for 261 yards and just one touchdown, and as long as 29 yards. But again, it's a short yardage tight end. And again, the reason, or rather the main reason that you would be making this trade in the first place would be for the blocking aspect. Now, I've seen the comments on previous videos saying Brevin Spann-Ford is a blocking tight end, and I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm just saying he is not the prototypical blocking tight end. Like, you want a 6'7", 264. Not that Brevin Spann-Ford is not, he's got the height, but he's not as big as Darnell Washington. And again, it's an upgrade, but at what cost? Are you actually getting that big of an upgrade if you're going to give up a 4th or 5th round pick? Like, would you rather just keep that pick? Because, Jaden Blue is a 5th round pick. If he turns out to be your RB1, that can show how important some of these late round picks are. So that's where the question that I kind of have with this whole trade, and it's where I kind of, in my opinion, off and ask for yours, because I'm curious, for Dallas Cowboys fans, would you like for the Cowboys to make a trade for Darnell Washington? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Is this a guy that you would like to see with the Dallas Cowboys? Or maybe is this someone you would say, I understand the reasoning, but I'm going to take a pass on this? Let me know down in the comment section. Personally, if I'm coach, or rather owner and GM Jerry Jones, I'm looking at this trade and I'm going to the Steelers and saying, okay, I'll give you a 7th or 6th round pick for him. And if they say no, be like, okay, it's on the table. And maybe by the end of the offseason, when they realize that Darnell Washington is not going to play, he has only 2 years left on his deal, and do they know if they're going to extend him if in 2 years he hasn't played yet? Or at least played to the ability that you would expect him, or level that you would want him to? That's where the question comes in, is you're getting value back for him. But ultimately, I'm not going much further than that. I'm not trying to make this trade happen. I'm not being like, well, what about a 5th? Or what if we give you a 6th and a 7th? Like, no. I'm giving you a 6th, maybe a 7th, or a 7th or maybe a 6th, one of those two, offering that out. And if they say no, whatever. He's the 3rd round pick. Yeah, great, but he hasn't done much. Like, he's blocking tight end, and that's great, but maybe they have a better use for him. I'm not risking any sort of draft capital for a guy that I think is just more of a slight upgrade than anything else. Yes, would he be nice to have? 1,000%. Yes, did the Cowboys think about drafting him? 100%. But right now, in the situation the Cowboys have, with the tight end room they currently possess, it doesn't exactly make sense to throw a bag or even any sort of high-priced value for a tight end. And that doesn't really include just Darnell Washington. It really means for any tight end. I think there's other places where you would like to improve. A interior defensive lineman would be a better use of a trade. Like, those draft picks, if you're willing to trade them, I'm not going after a tight end. That's just not the goal for this. And who knows? Maybe they make the trade and we're all going to look silly over here. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Is this a guy you'd like to trade for? Or is this somebody they're like, I think I'm like you. I'm going to pass. We'll be fine. And I trust the Cowboys to be in a good spot. Brian Schottenheimer is going to make a physical offense one way or another. And definitely Darnell would certainly show even more how physical he wants this team to be. But I don't see it happening. Again, we appreciate you watching. Obviously, we'll have more updates on anything that does happen. If there is a report that comes out the Dallas Cowboys are looking, or what exactly is happening with this trade / any other trades or signings the Cowboys could make over the next couple days as we inch closer and closer to preseason. In fact, the first game is like July 31st, so we're pretty close now. So I'm starting to get excited. I hope you are too. Obviously, our content as we get closer to the season, it's going to start to ramp up. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. You're not going to miss anything we have planned for you right here on Cowboys Digest. For now, though, I'm Jace Andrews saying peace out from Dallas. See ya.